So we have been kind of unpacking a very tangled, very complex landscape, but I really want to get down to brass tacks of all of this costs money. And especially nowadays, we've got a bit of an uncertain market. We want to kind of cut down those L's on the P&L sheet. So CFOs are, in many organizations cracking down on MarTech investments, especially those organizations that may not have been able to make sense of it or communicate its value to this point. In light of this, how should marketers approach assessing what's needed in their tech stack? Can you work with the CFO to get this more tightened and efficient without losing the value that it gives to the marketing function?
Yeah, well, this is a fun topic, of course.
Oh,
After
yeah.
we resolved the relationship between the CMO and the CIO, we decided let's talk about the CMO-CFO relationship
Nothing more
because that's
fun.
certainly less contentious,
Exactly.
right?
We
Okay,
love talking
excellent.
about bills here at On Stuff.
So I think one of the things I would say is there's some of these companies called SaaS management platforms. The one I'm thinking of at the moment is called Xylo. And so this is kind of meta. It's software to help you manage all of the software you have.
We've arrived.
Sums it up, right?
It's like an event horizon right there.
And so it's great because they plug into these stacks, not just marketing, but the tech stack overall.
Yep.
And they're able to track like all the different subscriptions you have and their usage and whatnot, how much they cost and so on. Now, one of the things I love about these companies is because they manage literally hundreds or thousands of tech stacks for companies, every year they generally publish an aggregation of data of like, okay, well, what's happening with tech stacks?
Oh,
Are
I
they
love that.
shrinking? Are they growing? What is average spend? And you saw like back in the 2021, like, oh my God, it might be a pandemic, but everything's digital, huge growth in
Absolutely.
spend, explosion of the tech stack. Followed by pretty much 2022 and 2023, hatchet away as much of it as you could.
Yep.
It was interesting that even in all that hatcheting, overall the tech stacks only shrunk by about 10%. For really people thinking of like, what can we cut? When they really got down to it, there wasn't as much as I think, there wasn't as much waste as I think people were under the impression there was, because these are truly digital operations right now. They're complex. They have a lot of moving parts. Not to say there isn't room for optimization and rationalization, but it's not like, Wanamaker's tech stack, 50% of this is worthless. I just don't know which 50%.
Right.
But here's the interesting thing, is in the past year, it actually grew. Both the amount of money people were spending and the amount of tech tools they have.
Interesting.
A tremendous amount, on average around 5% or so.
Still, a couple of years ago, it was down by 10. That is a...
Exactly. It's not like the economy, was any better. CFOs were still being incredibly, demanding about, okay, is this investment actually going to justify itself? I mean, one guess as to, what has been the thing over the past year that people might have decided they needed to put more investment in.
Anybody's guess.
And so this is the challenge. It's always been the case with MarTech, and we're definitely entering another period of it, is it's not that any of this stuff is guaranteed. I really do wish there was something you could put a coin in and be guaranteed everything goes up and to the right.
Right.
But we do know the world is changing. We do know that we are in competition with other companies that are trying to figure out new and better ways to go to market, to engage their customers. We have to invest in these technologies and learn what's possible, even under the expectation that we're going to learn some of this, some of it isn't going to work, we're going to have to get rid of it, but some of it is going to work. Some of it is going to change the baseline that we now have. And I think this is why one of the things I'm an advocate for is designing MarTech for change. And this is the technical architecture. You have to make sure you've got open platforms. You have to have open access to your data. You need the APIs. That's also in the way in which contracts are negotiated with companies. You should not be locked into these multi-year contracts with providers. You have to accept that, listen, I've got a set of capabilities I know I need today. Good thing about having all these MarTech vendors is there's a lot of competition. It is actually a buyer's market, so lean into that, about what you want. But you also have to accept the reality that you're going to need to switch something out. You're going to need to get something new. You're going to want to get rid of something old. And the worst part is you don't know exactly what it's going to be. But there will be those things over the next year or two. And you really have to plan, both from a business perspective and from a technical perspective for that to be the reality. And I think that's actually something the CMO can do in partnership with the CFO. Because talk about optionality and, the CFO's eyes light up. Yes, tell me about optionality on this.